Well, I've welded up that bloody hole in this housing. That turned out quite good actually. I've just got one more part to fix. Just getting these bits done while I'm waiting. Got to be careful welding aluminium. See how it started to collapse a bit on the side there. Anyway, that bit's done. Now I've got to try and fix this part. Just, yeah, I'll pull it apart. I don't want to weld it while it's together. There's that part done. I'm still a little bit wet, but I've decided not to weld that section up underneath, because that little part just helps you get it apart. It's got nothing to do with the part itself. So, oh, there it is there, sorry. That's right in front of me. There it is there. There's a little chunk missing out of that. What that does, as far as I can see, is to pull this apart, you wind a couple of bolts in there and it pushes the part out. So it's not necessary for me to fix that. Maybe one day, if it's ever needed, we can buy another one, but it's going on like that. Today I'm working on the fuel tank, fuel line, and this badge. What I've discovered, this badge is made of brass. That was a throwaway part, that, but I've sanded it, then paint stripped it. What I'm going to do is put a little bit of 2-pack in that, 2-pack filler, and get those marks out of there. Then I'm going to paint it red and highlight the Honda. What I've discovered with this fuel line is it's blocked. So if I can't unfree it, I have to make another one. When I say 2-pack bog, that's what I mean, ultra fine glazing putty. That's the best stuff for pinholes. And whatever, ultra fine filler work. Right, here's the fuel tank. I'm pretty sure I've pulled that off. Yeah, it's broken. So I've got to fix that. I'm going to use that. And I'm going to make a float for it. I'm going to have a look inside and see what's going on with this tank. But yeah, the fuel line's blocked, so I'll probably have to make another one. I managed to get it free, but it's still got a lot of shit in it. Not sure what I'm going to do with this thing yet. It's pretty bad. All the fuel's turned in like a tar. Even getting this off's hard. So I may have to stick a blowtorch down the spout, see if it's got anything in it, and then heat this up, then I can get that off. But it looks like I'm going to have to cut it in half, straight down the guts. So anyway, I'm going to be able to clean this out properly. We'll see. Look down in there, there's a baffle. And like fuel goes in there, then turns that way. So, I'm not sure, I only want to cut this, I don't want to cut it into heaps of pieces, I only want to really cut it in half. But there's no way we can use that, it is terrible. The inside is horrible. We can't have one speck of nothing in there. So this thing has to be operated on. I thought it was going to be a fairly easy job, but it's not. Not even close. To give you an idea what the inside of this fuel tank looks like. That's that. That thing's completely corroded away. I don't know what it was made of, but it may have been cork or something. But I've got to try and repair this part. It doesn't look real good. But the inside of the fuel tank, that's what it looks like. I'll save that thing for now. That was seized bad. Now, I gave it a sandblast and sprayed some 415 on it. So that thing there, it works. It's savable. I've just got to make a float for it. But inside this fuel tank is absolutely horrible. Looks like it was about a third full when it was stored, and it's just, it's going to need some major surgery, this fuel tank. So it's going to have to be cut open. There's only one way to see if these things are still dangerous. That looks pretty good. That's safe to cut open. Always make sure you got a hole here and a couple of holes, because when it does blow, it just shoots out. This is the type of stuff that's in the fuel tank. The entire surface of it's covered in it. You know, on the bottom it's thicker. But it just doesn't seem to be rusted. They're just going to have to cut it in half and cut it apart and clean it out. Put it back together. I may line it with some fuel tank liner, but it probably won't need it. So we'll see. I'm going to cut this tank today, then call it a day. I'm going to get it ready. There's some spot welds where the baffles are. I'll drill them out. I'm just going to cut it right around this edge in that corner there, all the way around. Get that off, but I'm going to have to drill some pot rivets out. I'm using this, and I'm not using the guard because I can just get in there better, but you've got to be very careful. That thing, that'll take your bloody fingers off. I don't ever do that. That's probably the second time I've ever done it. I'm just going to give it a go. Okay, that's the top of the fuel tank. That's the top of it. Right. One little speck of that will block the carbies up. Just one fraction of it. This all has to be cleaned properly. And here's the bad stuff here. Has protected it, and that's something, like it's not rusted out. Underneath all that mark is good steel. Well, I've just got to clean the thing right out. It's terrible. Like, look at the shit in it. Trying to hold the camera and actually going to take some cleaning. Either that or get another one, but where are you going to get one from? That'll be right, we'll fix it. I've just got to scrape all this shit off the inside here. 100%. Like this stuff on the side here, looks like, what is that stuff? Yeah. That's what happens to fuel. It looks like the level there, that's about where it was stored. And all this fuel's just evaporated and turned into that. Pretty nasty stuff. That's why you always clean your fuel tank out. The car's been stored for years and years. There's some of the stuff. Not even close to it. That's probably about, it might be a third of it. There's a lot of crap in this fuel tank. I think if I heat it up, that'll come off easier. I'm about to give it a try. All I have to do is drill out these spot welds along here, up around there, pop that off. Because that's where you pour the fuel in, and then the fuel rushes along here and comes in over there. So that's where the spout is there. So that's got to be cleaned, that's got to come off. The whole surface of this has to be treated everywhere. Even up inside that pipe. There's a pipe here. Something's got to be done with that. That's just a breather pipe, that. But this is where the mark is. I've scraped out some of this. I'll get it better than that. I'll do the whole thing like that. And even better, I'll just scrape it as best I can. And then it'll be getting sandblasted. And I'll put something in there, some sort of whatever that's resistant to fuel. And then it'll get welded all back together. And then I'll splash something else in there. But so far, this is what's come out of it. I'm just going to keep it, see what happens. It's got some crap in it. That's around the drain. That pipe thing now, I might have to delete that. I'm not 100% sure what it is, but I think, is that where the fuel comes in? Might be. I don't know, I'll see what happens, but there's no way I'm going to get the shit out of that hose, that pipe. Gotta go. I decided this has to be fully stripped, everything, because I've got to get that off. That can't stay. That's where the fuel comes in. I've put 2 little punch marks here and 3 there. Plus 3, 2, 1. So I just know which way it goes back. I'm also going to drill another little hole here and a little hole there. Like, it's a bit restricted, the fuel. Make it a little bit better. There's my little badge project. She's coming up pretty good on the side. I'll probably give that a coat of clear. I don't even know if it needs it. We'll see. Just finish this bit and then I'll clean this up, then I'll get that off. That pipe. There's the baffles there, straighten them up. And I'll take this fuel flow baffle from the intake off as well. make sure it's good. If you don't take those things off, all that shit under there, you can't get it out. And that will dissolve. Once fuel gets on there, it'll dissolve, and the car will never run right. So all that shit there, all under the baffle where the baffle sits. What you do to it, it'll never run right. Might start, run good. Half an hour. Moving that shit, I'll work away at the carby. Every speck of this shit has to be taken away. Well, I'll finish scraping this roughly, hoping that I can put this stuff in the parts washer and it'll dissolve the rest of this. We'll see. But I've got to get that off next. Little piece, I'm just going to cut it off with a hacksaw and I'm going to drill it out and get all the shit out of it and put a new pipe there. It's not blocked, but it's full of shit. So you see your fuel goes in there when you go to the servo, falls onto that tray, comes in here and spills out there, and if I didn't pull that off, look at all that. All that will go straight into the freshly cleaned fuel tank. I would have spent whatever hours fixing it, and all that crap would have went straight into the fuel. Just some of it. Now it's completely stripped. This pipe here I'm going to clean out. That's just a breather, and it's just way at the top, so I'll be able to get that. It's even there where the seams are. You just can't clean it any other way. You know, this tank will be spotless when I'm finished with it. There's the stuff I've got out of that thing. No way in hell you can get that out without pulling it completely apart like I did. And that's not all of it, some of it's out here on the ground. There's our badge, coming up pretty good. That was a throwaway item, that badge. It was absolutely, you wouldn't know that's the same badge. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm going to give it a clear coat. I'm not even sure if I'll cover that in resin, but night and day to what it was. I wish I took a picture of what it looked like. I just forgot to. Anyway, I didn't even realise that thing was made of brass. It took me ages to rub whatever was on it to get it back to the brass. Like at least an hour. I've got 99% of all the crap out of this tank. Just got to clean that. I'll clean that with a pipe cleaner up in there. That's actually quite clean. It's just a little, probably similar to that. That's just surface rust. Which if it didn't have that stuff on it, all the bottom of this tank would probably be gone. There's no rust at all. It's actually protected at that shit. I've got all the baffles. I've cleaned them out twice, but I'm going to leave them in the parts washer overnight. I'm going to try and avoid sandblasting in this, but if I have to, I will. It's definitely got to be painted with something on the inside. Well, it's coming along. It's just like a motorbike. A fuel tank's a very important part of a car. If you don't have a good fuel tank, you haven't got a car. There's them baffles all completely cleaned. Like, and I've painted that rust converter stuff on them as well. It probably doesn't even need it. But I'm going to do that. I'm going to do the inside of the tank exactly the same as that. Like, these things are pristine. They're clean. What you do is wash that off with water, and then it's ready. I bought this special fuel tank paint. Same stuff I used in the Dexon tank. I'm going to paint each part except for where they contact to be welded. Then I'm going to weld it all up, and then I'm going to tip the rest in and then just keep tumbling the tank. So I get every single nook and cranny. This tank's going to be good. Anyway, I'll come down here this morning to check my badge project out, where I tipped resin on it. I thought, man, that looks incredible. I went to pick it up, it was still wet. I used too much hardener. That's what I'm sure. I'm going to go and buy some new stuff and redo it. That's just taped up that bit at the moment. I just wipe the Honda as I go. And later this afternoon, I've got to go to a party now, but I'm going to buy some fresh resin and redo that badge tonight. Check out them apples. I poured resin on it. That was going to get thrown out. I wish I took pictures of it. I might see if I can find an old photo of it, but that didn't come up and really nice. Like to buy that, they're hundreds of dollars, hundreds. It's not focusing on it for some reason. But yeah, that come out really good. That's one of the best things I've fixed on this car. It's right up there. Very happy. And I had to do that twice because I poured resin on it the other night before. Come down the next day and it didn't set. I put too much hardener in it. Wow, that looks great. Yeah, I forgot to mention that on the red Hondas, that's part of the thing's white. This used to be white, but on the white Hondas, the badge is red. That's why I did it red. And I also went and bought different resin. I bought this crystal clear resin. And the other stuff, I just made a mistake. I'm putting too much hardener. Go to Brisbane today to buy some things, but we've got up to Currumbin, which is about a third the way, and realised it's a public holiday, so I'm back here now. I'm going to just start cleaning this with a wire brush, but I'm going to wear a mask. Yeah, when I was cleaning that other stuff there, I didn't wear a mask. It's a bit silly because this is leaded paint, not leaded fuel, and I don't want to breathe in that shit. Yeah, you can still see the old tide mark where when this car was stored, it was about a third full. That's the bottom of the tank, all pretty much cleaned out. I'm going to paint with that acid stuff. I'm just going to paint strip this edge, so I don't want to take any steel off there. If I grind that, it'll remove steel. It'll go out. A little bit of rust on this side. There's a little bit. I've ground this side, so I'm not welding this side. Anyway, we've just got to wire brush that, paint that stuff on there, but I'm going to weld these holes up shortly and weld the baffles in. That stuff all cleaned out, just let that dry overnight, this stuff. It goes like that, it really cleans it up good. You just got to wash that off. They're all done, those baffles. That one, everything, that's pretty clean. All I've got to do is, I'm waiting for this paint to come. I'm going to paint inside there, and then I'm going to weld together. I'm just not going to paint right around the edge where I weld, and then I'll weld the baffles, everything in, put it together, and then I'll tip this paint on it. Well, what's left of it in there, and you just keep tumbling it around, and that seals it off. I've welded these holes where the spot welds were. It's going to be fun welding this back up because the fuel tank's made out of similar stuff, if not worse, than the body. As soon as you pull the trigger, it blows a hole. You know, I managed to get it welded up that bit, but it's going to take ages to weld this all the way around. And I mean ages. I'm not looking forward to it. Anyway, welding the baffles next. I've lost count of the work I've put into this fuel tank. I've just put this Penetrol stuff there. It's like a primer, and it's also a rust converter, but there's no rust in there now. I've welded these baffles back in, all these. The thing's spotless, absolutely spotless. That pipe's been redone. That doesn't leak, nothing leaks. I've had water in it. What's that? These Hondas, everything's backwards on them, every single thing. Even welding, you go to weld a little hole, boom, blows out. You put a little bit of weld in, instead of the hole getting smaller, it gets bigger. Everything's upside down on these Hondas, back to front. I've also roughly prepped the outside of this. Well, when I do weld it together, then all I got to do is give that a sand. There's hardly any, there's no paint on it. I got it all off. But man, it's going to take some welding to weld that back together. Like, it's so thin. Just added a hole there, and there's a hole here. I don't know, I just didn't feel like it had enough flow to it. Like, there's a big hole here, and then there's nothing except for these little cracks down the bottom here. Well, I didn't film it because it's just a bit hard, but that actually worked really good. Like, it just dropped straight in. I swear that first piston fell in. The first two rings just dropped straight in on both. But I did have a problem with this oil ring and this same piston, this number 3 piston. I don't know why, the exact ring I busted. So I cut that off and I managed to just lower that down. So I've got 2 pistons in. That's way more than I was doing any other way. And This setup worked on center too really well, but I don't know why, but I had a problem with the oil ring on the number 3 cylinder. That's the one I broke. Don't know why, but it just fell in apart from that, and then I had to cut it off and get that oil ring in. Problem I had with using them on the outside, you can't get them off. So I did have to cut them off and just go in fraction at a time, and I tell you what, it's not easy. But that's in. It's in like Flynn. I haven't even bolted it down. Thank God, man. Stressful, not easy. Not easy to get them in. But that's in. Thank God. All in, torque down, Loctite, the lot. All spins. Nice, it's bloody good. I'm glad that's done. If I was going to do this differently, doesn't matter in the middle too, they just drop straight in. It just do its own way. Once it was lined up, it just so easy, it fell in, it was ridiculous. But the outer ones, I'd only make it as wide as the 3 rings, because it was just a bit difficult. It was difficult getting it out. Like it was, I couldn't get it out actually. Either way, I still think the way they do it in the factory is not the way I just did the outer rings. There's got to be an easier way. But the thing's in. That's the main thing. Not sure what's the next thing that gets done to these motors. I'm going to have a bit of a look. I'll probably bung the sump cover on, but I'll put this stuff here first. All this front stuff's got to get put on. There's some, you know, the stuff that drives the starter motor bolts here, and there's a chain that goes through here, and that's what runs the starter motor, is a chain off here. And there's a pulley thing goes there. You're just going to have to start putting it together. I'm not, you know, I'll figure out which is the best way. I'll have a look in this manual. But I believe this sump will go on pretty soon. I replaced these with new screws there. So yeah. Anyway, the next thing I've got to do is, I'm still waiting for the paint for the fuel tank, and then I've just finished putting that together. I may make a video on what I've done here. It's a bit of a milestone getting that in as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, thanks for that.